What is up, everyone? We've all taken our naps this afternoon because the National Basketball Championship doesn't come on until 9:20 Eastern for some reason. This is Pass the Rod.
Hey yo, could one of y'all pass the gosh darn rock? Hey yo, I'm trying, I ain't lying, and hosting this will be Brian. Yeah. Posting like Kobe Bryant, yeah. Flying to see the pie. Yeah. Hit the hezzy, we got Jesse, opinions get kinda messy. A fan of out of lefties, from football to racing jetties. He goes silly when he go deep, sheesh, is Zach Zeman. Teaming up with Jack, we stack the whole team, man. Pass the rock, don't stop the shot clock. Woo. Smack the slap shot, come on, now let's talk. Pass the, yo partner, pass the rock, for real.
Jack, 3:20 a.m. You said the national championship starts. Are you even going to bother?
What do you mean? Am I even going to bother? I'm a psychopath. Of course, I'm going to bother. Yeah, no, I'll be up. But I think my plan is to take a nap, wake up, and then watch. Because if I'm up all the way until 6 a.m., tomorrow is going to be a heck of a day. So, no, but I'll be up. I'm a psychopath.
That's insane. I can tell you, it comes on at 8:20 where I live, and I'm not even going to make it to the end. I'm not even going to try. So I may even watch the Padres Cubs over that. I don't know. So how excited are you about this one, Zach?
While kind of like you, I'm going to wait for Phillies Cardinals to end before I put on the national championship. The only reason I'm not more excited is because I don't really have like a major stake in it. There's no player that I'm like overwhelming being like, oh, this guy's going to be huge in the NBA that I'm looking to watch. Not really there for this one. My personal team of choice doesn't share the same conference as either of these teams, so I don't have anyone to cheer for or against, really. What we have here is just a really good matchup. It's just a great matchup all around. Just sucks that I can't be more invested in it because this is, a 1v1 in the national championship. It's what you want at the end of March Madness if you want the best possible matchup. Of course, you have your Cinderella runs and, those feel-good stories. But at the end of the day, if you want the championship to represent two of the best teams in the nation, this is what you get.
Yeah, maybe Houston has a say, but essentially these are the two of the top three, if not the top two teams going into the tournament. So I think everybody should be kind of excited about this matchup, and I just can't wrap my brain around it. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to put it on. I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm sure Jim Nantz is going to sell me, and then I'm going to remember that he's doing the Masters later this week, and that's going to excite me. But Jack, sell me on why I should be excited about this matchup.
Well, I'm about to lose you. There's no Jim Nantz this year. He stopped doing it.
Oh, that's right. I'm not even going to get that.
Yeah.
No reason to watch. No reason to watch.
Honestly, that is one of the more heartbreaking things about this. Jim Nantz is fantastic. I'm definitely going to miss him.
You're right.
Iron Eagle's doing the game tonight. I also really like him. So
yeah, he's good.
It's a step down, but not a huge step down. So this game's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be super competitive. It's probably my pick before the tournament was UConn. I've picked them at every stage throughout the tournament. They've been the most dominant team in college basketball this year. But if there's anyone that matches up with this team, it is Purdue. Zach Edey is a matchup nightmare for absolutely everybody that he's played against. I've hated it on him at every level. I'm a noted Purdue hater, but he just finds ways to win. He's too big. He will shoot it over anyone. And Donovan Clingan's a great center down there for UConn, so he'll give him a run for his money. But if there's anyone that can beat UConn, it is this Purdue team. I think this is going to be a really close game.
All right, Jesse, any thoughts? Do you like Huskies or Boilermakers better?
I've had the UConn all the way so far this year. I haven't had any faith in Purdue at all this whole time. They've proved a lot of people wrong, making it all the way to the championship after being kind of the bus watch in the first two rounds. So I'm taking UConn still all the way. I've had them in all my brackets since day one, in the second chance as well. Had them in the women's bracket too. So I'm taking all Huskies tonight.
All right, Zach, your prediction?
Yeah, I'm really in my head. I'm weighing in what is worse overall, back-to-back national champions or Zach Edey walking away as a national champion. I mean, both are not the best things, but I'm going to cheer for the dynasty. Give me UConn tonight, beating Purdue. It's going to be a really interesting game to watch. Definitely contrasting play styles. I'm really excited to tune into this matchup, especially in the second half.
What did Zach Edey ever do to you, by the way?
Shares the same name and is just inferior to me, obviously.
Do we know what the spread is? What's the spread currently for the
No,
game?
I will say the last time
I'll find the spread.
lost to a 16 seed, they won the national championship the next year. It's only happened twice. So could Purdue repeat the trend? Who knows?
It's true.
What's your prediction, Jack? You going UConn?
Yeah, I have to go UConn. I mean, well, first of all, they were my pick before the tournament, so I have to stick with that. But
All right. I have the spread, by the way. Sorry.
They're just such a machine. I mean, I don't see anyone stopping them, even though I do think it's going to be a close game. But UConn they've been the best team in the country all year, and I don't see that changing tonight.
Yeah. So
all right, Zach.
The spread from one sports book is favoring UConn by 6.5 points. The over/under is 144.5.
Okay.
So that is the spread.
Since the three of you picked UConn, I'm going to pick Purdue. All right. I'm going to go with my old school gut. Give me the old school big guy from the late 80s, early 90s, causing havoc for UConn, just disrupting things a little bit, playing a totally different style. And I'll be honest, I picked Purdue to lose in the second round. And I picked Clemson to lose early. I picked NC State to lose early. I don't know what I'm doing this year. So I'm going to pick Purdue. And they'll probably fail, and UConn will win back-to-back. And that'll have to be good enough.
I want to change my answer. I'm going to say I'm taking the UConn Huskies with the spread. I think that they're going to win and cover against Purdue. I think it's going to be possibly even double digits because they've done it every single game throughout the tournament so far. I think Dan Hurley's coming for blood, and they're going to win 10+.
They have not played any close games, that's for sure.
No, one of my favorite quotes of the entire tournament was Dan Hurley saying, why do you guys have to blow out every team? He's like, well, we suck at winning close games. So if you can't win a close game, just blow them out.
They're like the Celtics of college basketball.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the women's finals. Yesterday we had South Carolina put an end to the career of Caitlin Clark, just like you heard every single show, whether it's the Today Show or ESPN or anybody talk about. So thoughts on the final, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, you can't do anything but give flowers to South Carolina. I think that has to be first. And, you see a lot of the media narrative, like thanking Caitlin Clark for her unbelievable career, and she deserves her flowers for sure. But recognizing what this South Carolina team accomplished this year, going undefeated, they've lost 3 games in 3 seasons and have 2 rings to show for it. I mean, it is a really unbelievable stretch of 3 seasons from Dawn Staley and the South Carolina Gamecocks, and I think they have to absolutely get their flowers for this one, and really an unbelievable performance in that game, especially in the second half guarding Caitlin Clark. She was really good in the first half, had a rough shooting performance in the second half, and when you defensively can take out a team's best player, and let alone it being Caitlin Clark in the second half of a national championship game, that's a really impressive feat.
Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking the same way Jack is. Got to give South Carolina their props. But, I mean, I'm watching this game. I'm looking into what's going on, and I realized Iowa is just not that deep of a team. That team, and I felt this way when I watched them play in the second round against West Virginia. They're not deep, and I think that's easily exploitable. If you can shut down Caitlin Clark, there's not too much they have to answer besides her, honestly. Her supporting cast is solid. That's not to discredit any of them. It's just not deep. They ran a 7-man rotation throughout the national championship game. Really don't think you should be running your bench that thin. You should probably have maybe 1 or 2 more players seeing consistent time on the floor. But I know they did lose some players to injury, so I can't completely fault them for that. But, I mean, as soon as I saw Caitlin Clark forcing layups that were missing, I was like, okay, this game is over. South Carolina's won this game. And one other thing I want to add is that I know the first half there was some controversy with some calls or no calls by the referees. I'm really glad that the second half didn't have that. We can just appreciate what South Carolina did with this perfect season. I mean, they're following in the footsteps of previous perfect seasons. The one that always comes to my mind is UConn. UConn's had I think they've had multiple perfect seasons in their program, but I think of their early 2000s success, UConn primarily. But just a historic accomplishment. Congratulations, South Carolina.
See, I think it was less the 7-woman rotation that they played and more about the trust that Caitlin Clark obviously did not have in her teammates in crunch time. Late, she had several turnovers and a couple of really terrible shots. And I know she's the one that needs to be taking the shots, and South Carolina's focused their defense on her. But there were just several times where she didn't trust anybody else to handle it, and she wanted to, and that's why they lost. So give her flowers. She did a great job to inspire interest in not only women's college basketball, but college basketball in general. I think Charles Barkley was correct in saying that more people were excited about the women's Final Four than the men's. But in the end, she couldn't beat. That was a super team she came up against. They beat them last year. Iowa beat South Carolina last year in the Final Four, which was I'm not saying all luck. I mean, they had a great game plan and they made it happen when it counted. But to do it 2 years in a row was going to be pretty unbelievable, I think.
Yeah, I just want to say about the game. It was an unbelievable performance by South Carolina on the glass. I mean, they out-rebounded Iowa by 20. They had 18 offensive rebounds to their 7. And I believe I heard Sue Bird on the broadcast say that South Carolina had 30 second chance points or more. In a game where you only score 87, for 30 of them to be off of an offensive rebound is just insane. It seemed like Cardoso was getting the rebound every single time a shot went up, and that their game plan was throw it somewhere near the rim and she'll get the rebound and put in an easy 2. So not to mention though that South Carolina has a very deep stretch of shooters that can kind of stretch the floor along the wings, and for a freshman Tessa Johnson to have her career high 19 points in the national championship, I mean, you can't really ask for much more from a freshman. So great game by the Gamecocks, but overall, it was hard to watch the last 2 minutes of the game, because the game ended with about 2.5 minutes left when they were down 8 or 9. And it's looking grim at that point, and you do need to get some quick points. But as soon as Caitlin Clark started just dribble 2 steps over half, chuck a floater 3 or a fader or this, or driving and just throwing stuff towards the rim, you could tell that the game was basically over in that one moment when, instead of just trying to get some easy buckets, start forcing shots to chase points. And in that moment, the Gamecocks were champions.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the NBA. The NBA, 4 games left for most teams. That all ends on Sunday, which is kind of a cool way they've been doing that the last couple of years. So we want to talk a little bit, since today is National Eclipse Day, about whose chances maybe are facing the moon getting in their way and darkening their future.
What a stretch.
You like it? Besides the Miami Heat, what play-in team has the biggest chance? Let me start that over. Besides the Miami Heat, which team has the best chance to make a deep run in the NBA playoffs? Now, where I'm going to start is, do the Miami Heat really have a legitimate chance?
Wait, you didn't say play-in, you said playoffs.
Okay. Besides the Miami Heat, what play-in team has the best chance to make a deep run in the playoffs? How about that? All right.
How about it?
So I have a question as to whether the Miami Heat should even be counted in this group. But, Jack, starting with you, which team do you like?
I hate to come off as biased here as a Lakers fan, but I do genuinely believe that it's the Lakers. I mean, you have LeBron, you have AD, and this is a team that has played really good basketball since the All-Star break. They're, I believe they're 8-2 in their last 10. I think they're 10-12, or sorry, 10-2 in the last 12. They're playing really good basketball right now. They're playing their best basketball of the season. D'Angelo Russell's on a really good stretch, and when he's at his best, he can be one of the better point guards in the league. This is a deeper Lakers team that there's been in some of the previous years where they've had playoff collapses, and I just think when you put LeBron and AD in the playoffs, anything can happen. And right now they're sitting at the 9 seed. Every team is between 9 and 6 or 5 in the West is within 2 games of each other with 3 to play. So God knows how that's actually going to shake out. But if the Lakers do end up in the play-in and they end up as the 7 or 8, that is the team I least want to see in the Western Conference, with the playoff experience combined with the hot stretch they're playing right now.
Yeah, 6 through 10 is separated by 3 total games. The Mavericks in 5th are 2 games ahead of the Suns and Pelicans, which are tied for 6th. So it's really a question of 6 through 10, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Over to you, Zach. Your pick for a play-in team to make a run.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with whoever ends up as the 7 seed in the East. Of course, it could still be the Miami Heat if they do, continue to improve. But it looks like it's a tight battle between the Pacers and the Sixers right now, who sit 6th and 7th respectively right now. Let's assume the Pacers finish stretch a little bit, worse than they're doing right now. They've been 14-9 since the All-Star game. Nothing terrible, honestly, pretty solid overall. They're just kind of keeping the pace. I mean, in the playoffs, you're talking about Halliburton, Miles Turner, and Pascal Siakam. That's a great core to have in the playoffs to, have games revolve around. Matherin's exciting as well. I mean, that's a team that I'm excited to watch in the playoffs, but I think the Sixers with Embiid are one of the most dominant teams in the NBA. With Embiid this season, the Sixers are 29-8. That is good for a 784 win percentage, and in the East, that would be second. And in the West, that would be above every team right now in winning percentage. So as long as the Sixers have Joel Embiid, if they're in the play-in, I expect them to make it out of the play-in, and I expect them to, give the 1 or 2 seed that they're facing a real run for their money.
If I'm the Bucks, and I know, and if what you're telling me is that Joel Embiid is actually healthy, the Pacers don't scare me one bit, and the 76ers scare the you-know-what out of me. That's the team I would not want to see. I think there's several teams that could beat the Bucks. I think Miami could beat the Bucks. Like, the Bucks are not super impressive, and of late, they've been terrible. And I mean, they're 15 games back of the Celtics anyway. They could even lose the 2 seed to the Magic if they don't watch out.
Yeah, I'm only shouting out the Pacers because, like I've said previously on this show, they live and die by their pace of play. And if they're able to outspeed a Doc Rivers coached Bucks team, which I think is entirely possible, they have a legitimate shot. I mean, I feel like the Pacers have a shot against anyone.
They're like 4-1 against the Bucks this year.
Yeah, that on top of it. I mean, the Pacers should scare the Bucks a little bit. They've been successful against them this season. As we interviewed a guy who was, we interviewed the Pacers guy. He said that to us. He gave us that stat. But I'm glad that you agree with the Sixers, though. It really comes down to Embiid. I mean, Embiid will take this team as far as he goes. It comes down only to him. I literally saw a video the other day of a defensive breakdown. Without Embiid, the Sixers defense is god-awful. With Embiid, they're a top 10 defense. It's insane what he's able to do on the floor.
Yeah,
if I'm the Bucks, I agree. If I'm the Bucks, I am shaking in my boots at a potential Sixers matchup. Like, that is nightmare, worst case scenario. Like, we're going out in the first round to a play-in team for the second year in a row. Nightmare type scenario. Like, I am terrified if I'm a Bucks fan of the 76ers.
Yeah, Halliburton's been in hibernation since late January. I haven't heard his name hardly at all. So that team doesn't scare me. Jesse, your thoughts?
Well, 12 minutes later, I feel like there's no teams left for me to talk about. But
plenty in the West.
I was going to say the 76ers initially, but then you asked the Philly fan before you got to me. So I kind of got screwed out of that. But I was in total agreement of all of that. I think the Sixers, also during this conversation, I spent 5 minutes being baffled that the Magic are the 3rd seed in the East right now.
Was that when you were staring at the camera
Yeah, I was like, holy! I looked
a game back. They're only a game back.
They're a game back of second, by the way. So the difference
between
between second and 7th right now is like 3 games. But Cleveland's been dropping. The Knicks have been dropping, although they're kind of stabilizing now. But the Magic, though, just a separate conversation. They're 3rd in the East. If you look at all of their wins since January, they beat the Pelicans twice and they beat the Knicks once. Every other team that they've beat is either the Raptors, the Hornets, the Bulls, the Pistons, or the Wizards. Like, they haven't beaten anybody good in months, but somehow they're 46-31. So I don't really understand it. I would love to see them play a legit game against a good team. Yes, they beat the Pelicans twice. Those are their 2 best wins in the last 2 months. But interested about that team. As for a playing team that I think is the scariest for sure, I think it's the Pelicans. And right now they're tied for the 7th seed in the West. And this could all change in like 2 days. Like the Suns, the Kings, and the Lakers are all within a game or a game and a half of each other. So that could all flop. But I think it's the Pelicans. They are very scary right now. And I would if Zion can play fully healthy like he did against the Suns the other night. I mean, he was everywhere. I mean, he had 5 blocks, which is a career high. it was like he got 12 feet in the air on one of the blocks that he did on KD. It was outstanding. So I'm scared of that team, especially if Brandon Ingram is back next week, which they're aiming for him to be back by the plan. We got another 8 to 10 days or so until that happens. And the 7th seed will go after the first few games. So he has another couple days if they can be in that 7-8 matchup. So I think it's the Pelicans for sure. The way that they've been playing, especially if they're fully healthy, I would not want to see them as, the Kings, Lakers, Suns in that position.
I would personally think it's very contingent on Brandon Ingram's health. I think similar to what you were saying about the Sixers with Embiid, I don't know if you could say it the same way that the Pelicans will go as far as Brandon Ingram takes them, but I don't see this team being if they say they get the 17th, they end up going to play Denver or Minnesota. That's going to be a really difficult series to win without Brandon Ingram. So, or at least a healthy version of Brandon Ingram. So I think their ceiling is very reliant on that. But yeah, if we do get a healthy Brandon Ingram, this is a super talented roster, and theoretically they would be in a really good position to make a run.
Yeah, I think where it comes down is they actually tied for 6th with the Suns right now, a game ahead of the Kings. The Suns have a much tougher schedule this week, trying to finish this out. Obviously, the Lakers can still be part of that and whatever. The Pelicans, the best thing going for them is, they'll probably get Brandon Ingram back before the end of the season for at least a limited game, game or two, limited minutes. Their road record is tied for the second best in the West. That's the thing. That's the difference. That's my worry a little bit about the Lakers is their road record is really terrible. And to win a series in the playoffs, you're going to have to win on the road because you're not going to have home court advantage once you get to the playoffs. So I feel better about the Pelicans having that better road record. They actually play better on the road than they do at home. And so, but they're going to go as far as Zion brings them. His attitude and his ability on defense yesterday, he just decided to win that game in the fourth quarter, which is what we've been begging for him, those of us that are Pelicans fans, to do for a long time. So thanks for the shout out there, because I wanted to say it, but I don't like to be a homer like Jack. All right. The Rockets have been eliminated from the playoffs. Do they have the best future in the NBA?
I'm going to say no.
You go first.
Okay.
You go first since you don't have to wait 10 minutes with the other.
Thank you. I'm going to say no. I don't think that I think that they're close. I'd say that they're probably top 3 in terms of futures going forward with all the young assets they have and nobody on a really huge contract besides Fred at this point. I still think it has to be the Thunder, considering that they're the 2 seed and they have assets and they have budding young superstars and everybody's under 25 and they have MVPs, Shea basically. So I would say the Thunder definitely have the brightest future, but outside of the teams that aren't at the top of their conference, I would say, I think the Rockets, just aside from, you have Amen Thompson, you have Jabari Smith, Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, who I genuinely think will be one of the best 5 centers in the league for the next 10 years. He's so good. And unfortunately, early end of his season this year, part of the reason it was weird that they went on a 10-game win streak as soon as he got hurt. But then, obviously they fell off again. So now they're further down, but they've got a very, very good young core. They've got talent at pretty much every position. Guards, forwards, center, hybrid players that can do it all. They've got a lot of good defensive players as well. Amen Thompson's probably going to be one of the best defenders in the league as his career progresses. It's really where he's strong. So they've got a very bright future. Brightest in the NBA, I wouldn't say, but I'd say that they're probably, you might just put the Spurs above them just because Wemby counts by himself. But I would say, the brightest futures would have to be between the Thunder, the Rockets, you could say the Spurs, and then honestly, dark horse, the Hornets. They have a lot of really good young players too, but just depends how healthy they could all stay.
I would throw the Magic too.
Jack?
Yeah.
I think the Magic are another team that have to be mentioned. They were the second team that came to mind after OKC for me, just because I'm a huge Paolo guy. I think Franz Wagner's fantastic. And they've shown early success. I think that's something when you're looking at the team that has the brightest future or whatever you're trying to project 5 years in the future. The teams that have these breakout runs really early and really young tend to project really well. They tend to only go up. And I think Orlando, with the season they've had this year, the position they're going to be in, to be probably a top 3 or 4 seed in the East, is going to be really good for them moving forward. So I would probably take OKC, Orlando, and then San Antonio because of Wemby. And then after that, I think I would go with Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Zach?
Yeah. So in my eyes, I mean, I'm the one who put this down. I'm going to argue a little bit for the Rockets. Not only do they have such a great young core that looked fantastic this season thus far, they're all but guaranteed to probably have a top 10 pick in this year's draft because of the James Harden trade. They have Brooklyn's first round pick, and that will lead to a top 10 pick where they can fill a position of need or use that pick to trade for better support or future draft capital. I think there's just a lot of options the Rockets could go with that probably top 10 pick. But I know we already touched on the Spurs, but the Spurs could have 2 top 10 picks if the Raptors pick falls to like 7, 8, or below that. I mean, the Raptors pick is only predicted through top 6, I guess. So the Spurs could easily have 2 top 10 picks as well to surround Victor Wembanyama with the support he needs, including what everyone keeps saying, Victor Wembanyama needs a point guard to get over the top. And while this is a weaker draft class, there's still some talented guards. I mean, somewhat projected number 1, you have Nikola Topic, who, I mean, he's from Serbia?
Just off the name alone, you have to take him.
Yeah, I mean,
How many
but
dudes
talking about
and ending in itch.
Yeah,
a lot.
But talking about notable players in college, like if they decide they get 1 higher pick and 1 lower pick, you have Reed Shepherd available, you've Rob Dillingham available, you have Stephon Castle available. Like there's plenty of solid point guard options that they could go with, along with getting support with maybe a forward or a shooting guard. So I think the Spurs have a lot of opportunity if that pick falls the way that second pick, the Raptors pick, falls that way. But they're pretty much guaranteed a top 5 pick already since they've been so bad this season. Look out for the Spurs next season.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to if any of these teams that have these amounts of draft picks that are just ridiculous, if any of them use anyone and any of those picks to get someone. So, if you're the Thunder or the Pelicans or the Nets are a lot farther away, but I know they have a lot of draft capital. Do you use those picks to get a Şengün or to get somebody else? I don't know if he would even be available from the Rockets, but to fill out your roster, that's what the Thunder and the Pelicans very clearly need a 5. So, what do these teams do at the top to actually use their draft picks to get actual players that can take you over the top? I think the Thunder are probably a player away. It doesn't mean they're not going to be successful if they keep going with this group, but they could really accelerate it quickly. I say that as a team that's currently either in first or second in the West. They're third, a game back. So, they're right there, but if they could use some of that draft capital and actually get a stud that they can put with this lineup, then that's the big question. So I don't think it's the Rockets. I think they have a lot of potential, and they scare me as another team in the West stepping up and making this muddle in the West even worse looking into next year. But I am interested to see this summer. I think the trade market in the summer is going to be super exciting to watch if any of these teams just blow it out and throw all these draft picks out.
Brian, as a segue to our next topic here, I want to give a shout out to Daxton in the Instagram chat. He said, hot take, Pistons have one of the better young cores as well. You got Cade, you got Jalen Duren, you got Jaden Ivey, you got James Wiseman, Asar Thompson. They've got a lot of good young players there as well. I said definitely not the brightest future, but a very good young team. All young, pretty much no vets on that team anymore. So they've got a lot of good young talent as well. I know that they're kind of a cursed franchise, but I mean, Jalen Duren is averaging like 12 rebounds a game as a 20-year-old as well. Cade Cunningham is great. Jaden Ivey is a very pure scorer, looks a little raw, but great scorer. Asar, one of the best defensive young players in the league as well. He can guard, seems like, anywhere from the 1 to the 4 and maybe even the 5. So they got a lot of great young talent, and I really like James Wiseman getting his second chance in Detroit as well. He's actually played a pretty nice stretch of basketball the last month or so.
Yeah, the Pistons' biggest issue is that they need to get rid of their coach because he totally crapped the bed this
The
year.
best
on their
coach in the
plan.
NBA, and now
I
it's
mean,
the worst.
that I love Monty Williams. He was in New Orleans for a while. He's experienced some major tragedy with his wife dying in a car accident. Like there's a lot going on there, but that Pistons coaching staff just did not put them in any position to do well or to grow or to learn or anything this year. So get rid of him, and then I'm on board, I think.
But luckily, they have Malachi Flynn. So, Jack, why don't you take us away?
Yeah. So last week there was one of the most random 50 bombs I think in the history of the NBA. I can't think of a more ridiculous name that has dropped 50 points than the one and only Malachi Flynn. So, does Malachi Flynn have a higher career high than? And we'll start with Isaiah Thomas, and this is the Pistons' Isaiah Thomas.
Ooh. Okay. I mean, he was one of the best facilitators and playmakers of the 80s and 90s. I don't know if he was scoring buckets like that, but since he was left off, the whole dream team situation, and he thinks very highly of himself, I'm going to say that, yes, he did drop 50 at some point in his career. So I'm going to say his is higher than Malachi Flynn.
I'm going to say that his is lower than Malachi Flynn's. I'm going to say he never had a 50-point game.
Part of me wants to say Isaiah Thomas didn't even have a 40-point game because you're right, Jesse. He was a facilitator. But, there was a lot of teams that came in the late 80s that were expansion, like the Hornets and the Heat and a couple others, Timberwolves. I kind of just feel like he might just have one game above 50.
All right. Well, the only person to get that one right was Zach. He did not have a 50-point game in his career. His career high was 47. So,
okay,
all right.
Almost.
Okay.
So the next one is the other Isaiah Thomas. So I guess I don't even know how to describe it. Short Isaiah Thomas.
Celtics Isaiah.
Celtics Isaiah Thomas. He's not just the Celtics, though.
No, he's played for like 7 or 8 teams, but that's where he had his success, I think.
Okay, fine. We'll go with Celtics Isaiah Thomas.
I'm gonna say, or you go, Zach.
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna say I'm almost 100% sure it's yes, because I'm pretty sure he dropped 53 in the playoffs. I want to say, I think after his sister passed away, I think it was right after, and he dropped 53. I want to say.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to agree. I'm going to say that the Charlotte Hornets legend Isaiah Thomas dropped a 50-point game, higher than a 50-point game in his career.
I think absolutely that Isaiah Thomas was a lot more selfish with shooting, so he has to have a 50-point night.
Yeah, you guys are all right. His career high was actually 52, so Jesse was very close. Okay, Paul George.
Paul George.
Ooh. Are we going in order, or are we just going whatever?
Let's go in order. That it's just easier. To
Okay. If I go first every time, I might know all these, but no. I'm gonna say I think this is under. I think that this is gonna be like a shocker that PG's never had 50, even though he's one of the best scorers ever. It feels like he's probably like a 47, 48, 49 or something, like almost got there but never quite did. So I'm gonna say it's under 50.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Jesse. I mean, Paul George is a guy that you would immediately think he has to have had a 50-point game, but I'm with Jesse. I'm going to say he never has. I'm going to say it's under.
I'm going to say yes, just to be different than what the two of you said, and I'm going to say it was with his Pacers days.
All right. That is a good guess, Brian, but nope. Jesse and Zach were right, and Jesse pretty much had it on the head. His career high was 48. So,
wow. I was going to say if he did get it, it would have been with the Thunder, I feel like, for some reason.
Yeah, he was pretty absurd in that one.
He was crazy with the Thunder.
Yeah. All right. Well, how about his teammate, Kawhi Leonard?
Ooh.
Jesse, you should know.
I know it. I know the answer. So if one of you wants to go, you can go ahead.
Okay. Then I'll go. I'm going to say Kawhi Leonard has scored more than 50 points in a game in his career.
I'm going to say yes, he has as well.
You're both wrong because on January 1st, 2019, he scored 45 points against the Utah Jazz. I know because I was at that game. It was the only time I ever saw Kawhi play in person, and he had 45, and it was his career high. And I still believe to this day it is.
You are absolutely right, Jesse. I guess that was handed to you on a silver platter a little bit, but I didn't expect you.
Didn't expect the full day. I can give you the box score. I could also tell you that Jay Crowder had a career high as well of 30. And also in the game, Pascal Siakam had his career high also of 30. And then he passed that like the next week. But yeah, Kawhi had 45 New Year's Day. I'll never forget that game.
Yep. And that is still his career high. Well done. All right. Zach LaVine.
Oh, this is close. I think Zach LaVine had 50 on the dot earlier this season. But I think Zach LaVine is such a good scorer that he has to have had more than Malachi Flynn, right?
I'm gonna say LaVine is higher. That like it feels like this feels like that kind of contrast where like Paul George doesn't have more than 50, but Zach LaVine does. I'm gonna say Zach LaVine has scored more than 50 points in the game.
Oh, I think this is an easy one. I think it's absolutely he has. He's just the right type of selfish player to make sure that this happens.
Yep, you guys are all right. He scored 51. That's his career.
Was that this season?
I don't know if that was this season. He did have, I think, 50 on the dot this season, but I'm not sure about when the 51 was. Okay, Drew Holiday.
Oh, I'm going to say over. I think I have a memory of Drew Holiday having a 50-burger last season. I think while he was on the Bucks, I remember there was a game he just hit a ton of threes. So I think he had at least 50. I don't know if it was more, but I'm going to say over.
I'm going to say under. While doing these, I usually pick the opposite of what my gut tells me. I'm going to ride with my gut for once and probably be wrong. I'm going to say that Drew Holiday has never scored 50 points in a game.
He didn't do it with the Pelicans, so I don't know that he would have done it with the Sixers early in his career. However, the Bucks seemed like the perfect team for him to have squeaked one out, or Giannis didn't play a game because it was a random Friday night or whatever. So give me Drew with a yes, over.
All right. The Brian and Jesse got it right. He did have over. His career high is 51, and I believe it was on the Bucks. I'm pretty sure it was on the Bucks. So
it was last season against on the Bucks against the Pacers.
Well done. All right. Next up, Kevin Garnett.
Big ticket. I'm going to say no. I think his is under 50. He's just like a guy who played down low so much that I think that he's not getting the threes. I mean, Malachi Flynn didn't even hit that many threes, but I think I'm going to say he's lower than 50 and lower than Malachi Flynn. Probably high 40s.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same way as Jesse this time. Again, it's a name that you would think would have dropped 50, but I'm going to say he never reached that point. Probably in the high 40s. Probably, got real close, but never got over 50.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, because he came into the NBA when the scoring was much lower than it is today, and the end of his career was when that was starting to ramp up, and he just wasn't that guy anymore. Maybe big buckets, but not tons of buckets. So I'm going to say no.
Yep, you guys all got it. Career high is 47. So well done.
Nice.
All right, Darren Williams.
Oh, Darren Williams was cold, man. I'm going to say, I'm going to say that his is higher than 50 because he was a bad man. I also have I just have a feeling that maybe it was his Utah days, or I'm not sure which days it was, but I'm going to say, that Darren Williams is higher than Flynn.
Yeah. Again, feels like it's weird to say that that Deron Williams probably has a higher career best game than Kevin Garnett, but when Deron Williams was at his best, he was something else. It was almost like a prolonged Linsanity run, if you will. I'm going to say Deron Williams absolutely had over 50 points in the game.
I don't know what Deron Williams did, but Darren Williams, I believe, absolutely got over 50. I just harken back to the who's going to be better, Darren Williams or Chris Paul days. Those were good arguments. No, I think he did it. I think he did it with the Jazz. I think there was just a day because I remember when people thought he was better than CP.
It was the Jazz or the Nets. I don't know which one.
I am not sure which one, but he absolutely did have more than 50 in a game. He actually had the highest career high of anyone that I have on this list with 57.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, he was in fact a bad man.
Okay, it was on the Nets against the Charlotte Bobcats. So does it really count if it's against the Bobcats? I feel like everyone drops 50 on
You get like a 10-point deduction for doing it against the Bobcats.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
thank you to New Orleans ownership, by the way, for giving up the Hornets name so that we could just get rid of the Bobcats era altogether. That's just ridiculous.
So good. All right, Kevin Love.
Oh, I know Kevin Love's had a 30-30 game because of our trivia that we did on him then. Has he had 50 though? I'm gonna say no. I think that it's lower. I don't think that Kevin Love's had 50.
I'm gonna say higher. I'm gonna go higher on this one. I'm thinking Timberwolves, Kevin Love. He was really good when he was on the Timberwolves. Maybe he got a night where he could just go to work and drop 50. So I'm gonna say that Kevin Love got over 50 points.
I agree with Zach. I think it was old school Timberwolves Kevin Love when you really kind of were like, oh, he's not just the cover of college basketball 09 for EA Sports. He can play in the NBA. So I'd say yes.
Weird fact.
Yep. Zach and Brian got it exactly right. Back in his Timberwolves days, he had 51. So well done. All right.
Dang.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Ooh, Mr. Consistent. Now, this isn't who's had 31 points in a game. Otherwise, it would be him. But I would think I'm going to say that it's lower. I'm going to say that he has not had a 50 piece yet. He's had a couple high 40s this season, but I don't think he's had a 50 piece. So I think Malachi Flynn has a higher career high than Shea.
Yeah, I'm with Jesse on this one. I'm going to say it's lower, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if even in the playoffs this season or next season that this has changed and Shea's able to get 50 one night. I'm going to say he hasn't dropped 50 yet.
I'm going to say yes, he has. I feel like, when you get 35 free throws a game, you're bound to have had a 50-point night.
Yeah. So Jesse and Zach are right. He has not had a 50-point game. And this one actually surprised me a bit with how low it is. His career high is only 44. I would have thought it would have been higher than that.
Wow.
But, yeah,
Okay.
only 40 Shea. You are right, though.
He obviously needs more free throws.
Yeah, clearly. All right. Magic Johnson.
With that jump shot, there's no way he ever had 50. I'm going to say it's lower.
With the era of scoring he primarily played in, I'm going to say that he did not hit 50. He did not hit 50 in his career.
Yeah, no, I agree. The era's too low scoring, and Jesse, I don't even think about his shot, but you mentioned that. I just saw this ugly nightmare.
You saw the
picture
one-handed nightmare, and you were just like, ain't no way.
Like,
in a
there's
game
no
where
way.
they had 73 points in the fourth quarter at the end of a game, there's no way Magic ever had 50.
Agreed.
That's awesome. Well, you guys are right. His career high was 46. So
Nice.
still impressively close with that broke jump.
Higher
shot,
than
but-
Shea.
Yeah. All right. De'Aaron Fox.
Ooh. De'Aaron Fox has had 40 a lot, especially this season. He's had 40, 42, 44, like in that range, but I don't think he's had 50. It's surprising because the Kings score a lot of points and he scores a lot of their points, but I think it's similar to Shea where he just hasn't gotten over it yet. So I'm going to say it's under Malachi Flynn.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick my brain thinking if there's ever been just a 50-point De'Aaron Fox highlight posted on Twitter or something. And I can't think of one. I can't think
I'm
of
thinking of the House of Highlights graphic in my head if I can picture it.
I can't think of anything like that. I can't recall any 50-point games from De'Aaron Fox or a night where he really set the world on fire online. I'm going to say no, De'Aaron Fox has not dropped 50.
I say no as well. It's one of those where I think he probably has a couple of nights where he's gotten 45, but not over the hump.
Well, De'Aaron Fox has hit this career high three different times, but the career high is only 44. So no, he has never had 50.
Yeah, he had 40 last night actually, but
yeah,
shout out.
Yeah, no, you guys are 100% right though. He's always like 40, 41, 42. He's hit 44 3 times, but never above that. All right, stick in Sacramento, DeMarcus Cousins.
100% yes. I'm pretty sure he had 55.
Yeah, if Boogie has not scored over 50, I'd be absolutely shocked. This to
ridiculous, man.
It would be ridiculous. It would be ridiculous. So yeah, give me over easily.
Definitely over. What a hero. I still wear my DeMarcus Cousins jersey T-shirt from the Pelicans.
Yep, 100% right. He had 56 as his career high.
Damn.
All right. Second to last one, Richard Hamilton. Another
Rip. Okay, man. I'm gonna say yes. I think he had over 50. And I'm gonna say it was on all mid-range jump shots, like the whole thing, just on jumpers. So I'm gonna say yeah. Rip had 50.
I'm gonna say no. I don't think he ever reached 50 points. I'm keeping in mind the era of scoring that he played in. I mean, that the early 2000s, probably some of his best years and probably some of the lowest scoring games in the NBA. So I'm going to say no. He never hit 50, probably around that 44, 46 range that we've heard a couple other players in.
Yeah, when his Pistons days, when they were at their highest, their defense was so suffocating. He probably didn't need to score more than 15. But I just feel like he had one game where he was just on it, because when he was on shooting, you couldn't stop him.
Yep. Jesse and Brian have it exactly right. He did have that one game. He had a 51-point game in 2006. So well done.
I would love to see the shot chart for it. I just know it's like all elbow jumpers and like just he was like the DeMar DeRozan of the early 2000s.
All right. And then one last name, it's two-time MVP Steve Nash.
Oh, that was like an initial gut reaction of hell no. And for that reason, I'm going to say yes, that he was over 50.
I'm going to stick with the same gut reaction you had. Hell no. I don't think Steve Nash ever hit 50. He was very much renowned as not only a solid scorer, but as a phenomenal passer. And he definitely, racked up those assists probably a bit more than those points. I'm going to say no way he had a 50-point game.
Yeah, look, the only problem with that theory is the Suns at that point were scoring in the 120s. They just had so many possessions, and then he went to Dallas, and they did the same. I'm going to say yes. I don't feel like it should be yes, but I'm going to say yes.
Well, Jesse, you should have stuck with that gut reaction, because it was a hell no. His career high, two-time MVP, had a career high of 42.
I thought you were trying to get cute with it, and turns out you were getting extra cute with it. It was like a double reverse psychology.
That's what you got to do.
Wow. I can't believe that Zach actually chose the reasonable logic and got that one right because of it.
And won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun. That's crazy how many really good players Malachi Flynn now has a career high. Although we should do a list of how many players had 50 and then in the next two games went 1 of 19 from the field and just like absolutely just like wore off completely.
Yeah, that might be 1 of 1.
Yeah, maybe. All right, Zach. Should we finish the basketball and then do the baseball, or what do we think?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So today we have a solar eclipse, which means that the moon is blocking the sun, and Victor Wembanyama is blocking everything else. So let's do a little trivia about some NBA blocks. So, can you name every player with 9 blocks in a game in the last 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
So 9 or more blocks in a game. There are 11 players.
Okay. I'm going to guess. First player that came to my mind, Dwight Howard.
No, Dwight Howard has not done this in the last 10 seasons. So this is only since 2014, mind you. But no, he has not.
All right. Well, the first player that came to my mind was the Stifle Tower himself, Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert has got 9 blocks once in his career.
Huh. I hate to say this, but give me AD.
Anthony Davis has done this more than almost anybody. He has done it 5 times in his career, one of which he got 10. That is tied for the most out of anybody on the list.
Wow. Give me, you know what? Might be still shooting in the dark here. Give me Brooke Lopez.
Done it twice. Splash Mountain has done it twice. Good job.
All right. This guess is either going to be really stupid or he's done it 15 times. Give me Hassan Whiteside.
Number 1 on the list. He's done it 5 times, and he has 12 blocks, 11 blocks, 10 twice, and 9 once. Nobody else has more than 10, and he's had 12, 11, and 10 twice. So Hassan Whiteside, number 1, very smart answer.
I don't know if this guy was just consistent night to night of getting, 2 to 3, or if he ever would have had one night like this. But give me Jaren Jackson Jr.
He's had 8, so he's very close, but he has not had 9.
Okay. Trying to think of like the best like shot blockers. Give me a Mitchell Robinson.
Mitchell Robinson has had 9 back in 2018, shockingly. So 6 years ago, he had 9 blocks in a game. Correct.
I don't remember if you phrased this question as aside from Wemby, but I'm pretty sure Wemby had 10 this year, right? Is he on the list?
Wemby's absolutely on the list. He's 10 and 9. He's done it twice this season, which is bonkers.
All right. You stole my Wemby answer. No, I don't
You got
know.
5 names left.
God, who else? Oh, no, he's not going to block anybody. I was thinking Sabonis because he's always an answer for us. He's not a good defender.
No.
Skip me. Come back. I got to think more.
Oof.
I'll give you a hint. Nobody else left on the list has done it this season or in any of the last 2 seasons. So the earliest one or the most recent one is 2021.
Okay. I have a guess. I'm going to guess a player that I like to guess every now and then for these kind of block center categories. Give me Clint Capella.
Oh.
I was literally reading your mind that you were about to say Clint Capella, and you are correct. He got 10 blocks in a game, and he's the one in 2021 as a member of the Hawks.
I feel like I always guess Clint Capella in these, but finally he does me justice.
Yep, let's go. All right, 4 names left. We've got 1, 2, 3. Yep, 4 names left. And one of these members was a process Sixer.
Ooh.
Process Sixer.
Bynum?
No, not Andrew Bynum.
I'm thinking like.
Oh, I think I know who it is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Sixers drafted 2 centers in like the top 4. One was offensive, one was defensive. The defensive one was Nerlens Noel.
Nerlens Noel had 9 blocks in 2015 with the Sixers. Well done.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, we have so not Andrew Bynum, but there is a different Andrew on here.
Andrew. What other Andrews are there?
Andrew Wiggins is not that guy.
There's
No.
no way.
This is not an Andrew, but what about Chet Holmgren?
Chet had 8 this season as well, so very close, but no.
All right. Well, this one's not quite Andrew, but how about Andre Drummond?
No, very close. Andre Drummond misses the list. He's had, I think, 6 or 7 a few times, yeah.
That's kind of crazy to me. I feel like Andre Drummond would be on this list.
More of a rebounder than a shot blocker.
I might have figured out Andrew. Is it Andrew Bogut?
It is the former number 1 pick, Andrew Bogut, in
God.
2015, had 9 blocks against the Pelicans.
Wow.
So your last 2 names, one of them is still in the league, but currently rides the bench, and the other one has been retired now for a couple seasons.
Oh, I got a name. How about DeAndre Jordan?
He's the one who's still active in the league with 9 blocks. DeAndre Jordan, as a member of the Clippers. Well done. Your last name. This guy played a lot in the East and the West, both. Won a couple rings. He's had a lot of success. Probably a Hall of Famer. Actually, without a doubt, a Hall of Famer.
Huh.
You said he's retired?
Yeah.
What a couple rings.
Jack, you should know this guy.
I was thinking Pau Gasol. Is that who it is?
It is absolutely Pau Gasol. Last name on the list with 9 blocks.
Wow.
Way back in 2015, although he was a Chicago Bull. So there you go.
Wow.
Well done.
That's gross. That's gross that he was a Chicago Bull.
No, he had one of his career highlights that year when he had the tip-off against Mark in the All-Star game.
Yes. All right. That's all for NBA today. So Zach's going to finish the trivia off today with some MLB.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with WrestleMania coming to a close last night, I'm going to give you a name. You're going to tell me if this is a WWE wrestler or an old-timey baseball player. Because honestly, you look at the names and they're pretty hard to tell apart. Okay, and I'm also gonna write out the names in the notes so you guys can read them, how they're spelled. So first name we have 12 names. First name we have is Damian Priest.
Ooh.
Damian Priest.
You got Damien, which is another name for the devil or the devil's son or something, and you have Priest. That's got to be a wrestler.
I think I'm with Brian. I'm going to say it's a wrestler as well.
Yeah, I'm not getting like when I think of the baseball players you're pulling out, you're pulling out guys that played 10 games in 1906. Damian Priest doesn't feel like a 1906 baseball player. So let me get wrestler as well.
Damian Priest is a wrestler. He did participate in night 2 of WrestleMania last night as well.
Nice.
So, secondly, we have Urban Shocker.
Oh, that has to be a baseball player. That's such a baseball player name.
Urban Shocker.
Urban Shocker.
I'm going to go with it's a wrestler. I think he's coming in to shock the new urban scene. I don't know, man. The wrestlers' names are weird, but I'm going to say it's a WWE wrestler.
I think it's got to be a wrestler, and that's his signature move, the Urban Shocker.
It would be a really cool signature move if he didn't play baseball. This is a baseball player.
Dang.
Let's go.
All right. Third on the list, Pedro Morales. Pedro Morales.
Okay, so this name sounds not American, and I don't know how many they had of those playing baseball if this is an old-timey baseball list. So I don't know if old-timey is just like 1920s and only, because if so, this guy is definitely a wrestler.
I'll give you one thing about him. He is Puerto Rican.
That is very baseball-y.
It is, but is it old-timey baseball-y?
Yeah, I don't know. I heard him say Pedro, and I'm like, is he about to say Pedro Martinez? What are we doing here? But no, Pedro Morales. I'm gonna go with wrestler as well.
It's a great name.
It's got to be a wrestler. It's just too easy to say, oh, baseball. That sounds like a baseball guy.
Pedro Morales is an old-timey wrestler. He is, in fact, a wrestler.
Let's go.
Fourth on the list, we have Boof Bonzer.
That's got to be an old-timey baseball player. Boof
Bonzer.
Yeah, that is the kind of name you only find in 1906 baseball.
Oh, yeah. Boof definitely led the league in either home runs or stolen bases. Maybe both.
Boof Bonzer is absolutely an old-timey baseball player.
Yeah, that's the Ronald Acuna of 1906.
Who knows? All right. Number 5, we have...
Wait, really quickly. There was also a Boof Bonzer that was born in 1981 who played for the Twins. Just saying.
You're telling me there were multiple dudes named Boof Bonzer?
Yes. I was
That's
looking up the
wild.
old Boof Bonzer's stats, and I have this picture of this dude that played for the Twins in like the
That's
like
wild.
early 2000s.
He's 42. He's like younger than Cologne.
It's still what a name for baseball. All right,
Sorry. Yes.
number 5 on this list, we have Phenomenal Smith.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
I'm going to say that this is an old-timey baseball player because I think that they just weren't creative enough with names yet back then that these parents in like the 1906 were like, our child is going to be phenomenal and just went with it.
No, I cannot imagine that parents had a child and named it Phenomenal. So I'm going to say this is a made-up name. It has to be a wrestler.
No. You have it. I think you have it half right. I think that is his real name, and because of that, he is a wrestler.
So he is a baseball player, and I'm pretty sure Phenomenal is like the nickname he went by for his entire career. He is listed as Phenomenal Smith, but that is just like a nickname. So, and that's honestly where some of these names come from, where it's like they go by a certain nickname for their entire career. So literally, their baseball reference page literally has the name Phenomenal Smith. Like that's actually what he goes by. But yes, Phenomenal Smith, old-timey baseball player. All right, number 6, we have Balls Mahoney.
Balls?
Balls Mahoney. I just wrote it out on the dock if you want to look
That
at
ball
it.
looks a little Mahoney. That's crazy.
Balls Mahoney.
That guy?
That just has 1920s written all over it. I think that there's no way you're a wrestler and you choose for your name to be Balls. I mean, actually, now that I say that out loud, I feel like there definitely is a world where you choose your name to be Balls. However, I'm going to say that this is a 1920s baseball player.
Yeah, I'm right there with Jesse. I can't imagine that there was a wrestler named Balls. That just doesn't sound right. So let me get old-timey baseball player.
I hope for his combatants, he wasn't known as Balls Mahoney for any specific reason. So, but I also am like, baseball? Oh, God. Yeah, give me baseball.
All right, Balls Mahoney is a professional wrestler. He is a wrestler.
Wow.
Balls Mahoney.
Wait, currently?
No, unfortunately, no. Previously, no. He was biggest in like the 90s. He was biggest in the 90s, but still, just an iconic name I had to include on this list. I had to include the name on this list. Yeah, Balls Mahoney. That's what he went by. Yeah,
Oh my God.
that was his ring name. And yeah, Balls Mahoney is crazy. But yeah, he was most prominent in the late 90s. Number 7, we have Razor Shines. Razor
That's an awesome name. That has to be a wrestler, right?
It's an awesome name. Yeah.
I'm going to say wrestler 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really 50-50 on this one. I think this is the most 50-50 that I've been because I'm trying to imagine both and I see both. So, I think I'm
a
gonna
great
go
name for a barbershop and shoe shining business in like the 30s.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think I'm going baseball player. I'm going to go baseball player, but I'm not confident in this one. I feel like this one could go either way.
I'm going wrestler just for the like body oil they wear sometimes. You know, he's like, oh, there's Razor Shines.
Jack, you should have been more confident. This is a baseball player. You may have been thinking of a wrestler who also used Razor as his first name. Razor Ramon was a wrestler.
I would have said that's a baseball player.
Yeah, Razor Ramon is the wrestler. Razor Shines is a baseball player.
Yeah.
All right, we are on number 8. This one is Braun Strowman.
Oh,
Wow, it's like two of my favorite players from my childhood. Ryan Braun only because he's Jewish, and Marcus Stroman because he's awesome. But
Right.
if it is a wrestler, that's like the lamest wrestler name I've ever heard. So I'm gonna say it's a baseball player.
yeah, I'm rolling baseball too. Braun sounds like a baseball name.
Yeah. I mean, I get the idea of going BRAWN and using it in your wrestler name, but I can't commit to it. I'm going to go baseball.
Braun Strowman at 6'8", 386 pounds, is a professional wrestler.
I thought you were going to say is the baseball player. I was like,
I know.
He is a gigantic man. He is gigantic. But yeah, he is a professional wrestler.
So does he have the brains, though?
Honestly, I like watching him. He's pretty good. Number 9, we have Braun Breaker.
Another Braun.
But spelled differently this time.
Oh.
Spelled like LeBron.
Yes. Braun Breaker.
See, that sounds like that has to be a wrestler because it's like a Braun Breaker. But I think you're trying to throw us off, so I'm going to say it's a baseball player. And if so, that's like the perfect name for this list.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with baseball player for one reason and one reason only. It's because there are 2 Ks in the last name. If it was Breaker spelled like the way you would think Breaker would be spelled, I would say wrestler. But I think because there's 2 Ks, I'm going baseball player.
That's funny that you say that. I looked at that, saw the 2 Ks, and thought absolutely wrestler. He's probably racist and a member of the KKK and can't put 3, so went 2. So give me wrestler.
Would it be more likely he's racist if he's an old-timey baseball player, though?
Very good chance to
Well, for not the reasons that you listed, Brian is right on the money. This is a wrestler. He's an up and coming wrestler in WWE's like developmental system. But
like the AAA.
And he's
in NXT, which is the AAA of WWE. So however, I watched him on like Saturday afternoon. He is phenomenal. He's very exciting to watch. Number 10, Santino Marella.
Oh.
That's got to be a baseball player. I mean, I suck at this game, so I honestly have no clue. But I'm going to say that that's a baseball player.
Santino Marella.
I'm just going to say the last 2 have been wrestlers, so I think this one's a baseball player.
Nice.
Yeah, no, this sounds like the quintessential like Venezuelan baseball player. So I'm going to go with it.
Oh, that's where you're wrong. Santino Marella. This guy's of Italian descent. Okay, I'm thinking of one of the sons in The Godfather was Sonny Santino. All right, so I'm thinking like, you know, his dad was from the old country. They come over. He grew up in Brooklyn. You know, played some stickball and made his way into the major leagues.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Santino Marella is actually of Canadian descent, and he is a professional wrestler.
Damn, bro.
That is the last way.
You don't know your national champions?
Yes, Santino Marella. He was more of a comedic wrestler of anything. Number 11.
Comedic.
I knew you were going to say something like that.
Number 11, we have Tony Suck. Tony Suck.
This has to be a baseball player, right? No one in their right mind would name themselves Suck.
I'm just going to say there is a wrestler out there who throughout his entire career, fans would give his props to him by chanting "You suck" during his intro theme.
I really hope that it's this guy, because how sick would that be? Your name's Tony Suck. You suck. You suck. I don't know. I want to say baseball player because I feel like what Jesse's saying is right. Like, there's no way a guy would name himself Suck. But I feel like this is like a reverse psychology thing, and I'm going to say wrestler.
I know they didn't necessarily put names on the back of jerseys in the like 20s and earlier, but I'm just picturing a baseball player with "Suck" on the back of his jersey. Yeah, I'm going baseball.
This is a baseball player, Tony Suck. This is a baseball player.
I feel like Pat Dev winning my championship right now after finally getting one right.
Yeah.
Has it been a streak of
I swear I've gotten every single one wrong since Urban Shocker. Like I'm pretty sure.
You finally got it, Jesse. Hopefully you can lock in for this final one. Number 12 on the list, we have Richard Lovelady.
Oh. I could see that going either way.
Is Richard Lovelady an old-timey baseball player or a wrestler who had a gimmick being a pimp?
Is his nickname Dick?
It could be Dick. I just found it listed as Richard Lovelady.
I'm going to say that's a wrestler because that's clever if it is. So I'm going to say that's a wrestler.
My gut immediately went to baseball player, and I don't know whether or not to trust it, but I think I am going to go with it and say baseball player.
Oh, I think this is absolutely baseball player. You would love for that to be a wrestler, but it's just not.
All right, Richard Lovelady isn't even that old timey. He's currently with the Cubs in their minor league system.
Oh,
He's a baseball player.
all right.
Oh well, that's cheating because this is old timey baseball players. I was expecting
That name has to sound pretty old timey, I gotta say.
It does. Especially if his name is Nick.
But yes, he currently has a 6.75 ERA in the Cubs minor league system.
All right.
But yeah, there you go. So there we have it. Wrestler or baseball player. There we go.
We'll never get those 15 minutes back.
Nope.
That was fun.
Thank you for the birthday gift. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Oh, that's right. Happy birthday, Zach.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Is
this
today
is all
21?
I wanted. This is all I wanted for my birthday. This is it.
Today's 21?
Yes, today's 21.
Oh, you're going to stay up late. That's good. All right.
Next, we should do: is this a drink order or a football play? Like,
I actually don't hate that.
Sunrise.
yeah.
Wrestler.
Oh, this show's going on.
Screwdriver.
I definitely think the eclipse is getting to everyone. So let's finish it out with a little NFL action. All right. The Houston Texans keep loading up on both sides of the ball, but specifically on offense. Is there any wide receiver room right now that's better in the NFL than the Houston Texans? Jack?
No. I mean, I think that's like the immediate reaction. Like it's pretty unbelievable the core they built. They already had a good receiving core. You had Nico Collins and Tank Dell and Robert Woods even and John Mechie going down the list. But you add Stephon Diggs on top of that group. Now you get a true alpha number one in the building. You get a guy that has been reliable for his entire career. He's been consistently good for the last, 6 seasons, something like that. And you give that guy to CJ Stroud coming off a phenomenal rookie year. You already added Joe Mixon to that offense. I mean, this offense is going to be a top 3 offense in the NFL next season. And I mean, it's terrifying. I am the Jaguars. I feel bad for them because they had like that 1 year window where you're like, oh my God, like they're going to take control of the AFC South. They're the team of the future. And then all of a sudden, literally here we are 1 year later and the Texans look like a super team. So, the Texans are looking unbelievable, and I mean, especially if T. Higgins gets out of Cincinnati, this is the best receiving core in the NFL. I think Cincinnati at this moment in time is the only one that could compete.
I think you're omitting a team that you're a huge fan of. I think the Niners are still the best receiver room in the NFL. They have 2 guys who are Pro Bowlers. Like, call me what I know the Texans are good, and Tank Dell and Nico are both very good and young and promising, but call me when one of them becomes a Pro Bowler. And I know that Nico got close this year, but until then, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and third and Jawan Jennings, it still to me is the best receiver room in the NFL. I know Diggs is good, but he's coming off a down year. Tank Dell's coming off an injury, and so is Nico Collins. He was hurt a bit last year too. So I do think that this is like on paper, not to mention Noah Brown, Robert Woods, John Mechie. Like the rest of the room is deep as well, but I think that it has to be the Niners still because they have 2 guys who are Pro Bowl level talents on the team, not to mention Jawan, who's just an absolute beast. So I think it's got to be them. I mean, Ray McLeod, shout out him too, but I think that it's got to be the Niners. And honestly, you could make a case for the Eagles as well. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown as a 1-2 punch to me is better than Diggs and Nico or Diggs and Dell, whichever one you put it. I would say that the Texans have the best wide receiver 3 in the NFL. I think that in terms of that, like Tank Dell as your third option is probably better than every single other third option in the league. However, I don't think that they have the single best duo. But as a room, they might have the deepest room. But I think still right now, in terms of like top three guys, really, it's got to be the Niners and the Eagles still above the Texans.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with what you're saying, Jesse. I do have to say one thing. They easily by far have the deepest wide receiver room. I don't think that's even a question. When it comes to depth, they are unmatched. However, you only have so many guys on the field. You only want so many guys on the field, so we'll see how this really works out. But when it comes to, when you look at wide receiver rooms, it's really the first 2 or 3 names that matter. The Niners definitely up there. The Eagles definitely up there. The Bengals are absolutely up there with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I don't think you can really forget about that.
I mean, Tyler Boyd's solid too.
And Tyler Boyd. You really can't forget about that group. Although I think Tyler Boyd, I think he walked. He might have walked, actually. I don't think he's with the team anymore. But regardless.
Yeah, he's a free agent. You're right.
Yeah, regardless. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, even if it's one more year left of them, they're still a top 3 duo in the NFL when it comes to wide receivers. I mean, of course, I loved your shout out of the Eagles, but A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, that's a really good 1-2 punch. And like you said, with Debo and Brandon Ayuk, I mean, I feel like with wide receivers, you're looking towards those first 2 guys as your main part of the wide receiver room. And while, yes, Tank Dell is the best number 3 in the NFL, you need those 2 to be, head and shoulder above the rest to have the best wide receiver room in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can't forget the Jets as well with Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Alan Lazard. They have a good.
They got Mike Williams.
Alan Lazard stinks, but the other 2 are sick.
He does, but he's a great 3. A tall guy that can.
Honestly,
I think it's so disrespectful to Tank Dell to say that Alan Lazard is a great 3 and use the same adjective to describe Tank Dell.
I don't think Tank Dell's great yet. He hasn't played nearly enough to be great. I'm not saying Alan Lazard is great in that same definition. I'm saying a good name to have at the wide receiver 3.
I'm sorry. I might come off as an Alan Lazard hater, but to me, that dude is a trash can with feet. Like I can't stand watching him.
Again, he's a wide receiver 3, so you're not going to have a Pro Bowler. This is what I'll say. I wasn't saying that to like stand on Hill Lazard. Okay.
Sounds like it, Brian. Sounds like you're a big Alan Lazard guy.
I'm really not. Mechie as your 6th is an unbelievable 6. So I don't think you can argue that there's another.
Look, I love John Mechie more than the next guy, but has he played a down of football ever?
Not really in his first 2 years in the league, but he was pretty unstoppable at Alabama. So to have somebody like that at 6,
so is Henry Ruggs.
Spot
oh God,
is what's that?
No, I said so was Henry Ruggs. He was dominant in college, but I have yet to see John Mechie more than 3 catch game in the NFL. So yes, he's good, but as a 6,
who is the best 6th receiver in the NFL? How are you going to determine
that? Should be our next question, and I'll tell you why. It's Tyquan Thornton. I'll
take Johnny Olszewski.
So the point is, I think the room is not really much of an argument. I do think they have the best room. I do think everybody needs to pump the brakes a little bit on the Texans and oh my God, they're ready for the Super Bowl. They have a young quarterback. They have a lot of young players around him. And I think that they're going to have some growing pains in year 2. They're going to have to figure out how to involve Diggs because Diggs is going to tell you when he's not being involved, and then you're going to have to deal with that. So, I agree with the 49ers take. I agree with, some of the other takes you guys had. I think there are better 1-2 punches in the NFL. And the amount of love for the Texans is a little overwhelming, I think.
I think that there's a chance that Diggs, Dell, and Nico all have 1,000 yards next year.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying is that yes, we're talking 1-2 punches, Diggs and then Collins or Dell, whichever one you pick is the better between the 2. There are obviously better 1-2 punches in the league, but there were 3 receivers on the field for most plays in the NFL, and to have those 3 guys be out there at the same time, that is borderline impossible for a defense to keep track of 3 receivers that are that talented, especially when you have someone who's a deep threat like Dell, an incredible jump ball receiver in Diggs, and then the bigger body guy in Nico Collins. They have an unbelievable diversification of skill sets that they're just going to play off of each other really well. They all play different roles, and that is a headache for a defense to stop, especially when you got a quarterback like C.J. Stroud back there to sling it to him.
I would just
None of that do I deny, by the way. I wasn't saying they're going to be 3-14. I'm just saying let's pump the brakes on the idea that they're going to be in the Super Bowl because of this.
I want to say one thing, that owning any of these guys in fantasy is just going to be an absolute nightmare. So I would stay away from that. Comment in the chat that I saw earlier, Seattle is underrated as well with DK Lockett and JSN. but none of those 3 guys are like a top 15 guy. So it's kind of hard to be in the contention for. I mean, DK, you could argue is top 10, top 15, but I mean, there's so many good receivers around the league.
I don't know that you have your digs in that room. I don't know that you have that true alpha.
You don't have like a number one. Anyway, let's move on to our last topic of the day, looking at the quarterback rooms. So we also, by the way, to our community, we are going to the NFL draft, which is going to be super fun. Me, Zach, and Brian are going to Detroit on the 25th, 6th to get some live reactions of the first round of the NFL draft. Jack will still, unfortunately, be on a beach in Barcelona, so he'll have to miss out. So we're going to the NFL draft, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Very quarterback heavy yet again. When does that ever work? But so looking at the NFL draft, will the first 4 picks of this year's draft be 4 quarterbacks for the first time ever? So Brian, what do you think?
So you got Chicago, Washington, New England, which we all feel pretty strongly are going to take quarterbacks. I think New England could possibly trade out of there, but if somebody trades up, they're going to take a quarterback. Then you have Arizona and the Chargers, neither of which need a quarterback. So the question is, do the Giants trade up? Does Tennessee trade up? Does somebody crazy trade up that we're not thinking about? I think it's a pretty high chance. I just think, Minnesota's sitting there at 11 with a bunch of picks. Do they have to jump all the way up to 4? Probably not. But if Arizona gets out and somebody else jumps in, then, all bets are off. I'm going to say no. I just think Arizona takes whatever wide receiver they really like the best, or somebody else jumps up to take any wide receiver that they love the best. I just worry about whether, J.J. McCarthy is really worth giving up way too many draft picks to jump up and grab.
Yeah. Jack, what do you think?
With each passing day, I'm leaning more and more towards yes. Originally, at the start of the process, I didn't think J.J. McCarthy was going to be anywhere close to good enough to warrant a top 4 pick, but the NFL seems to be really liking him. He is very physically talented, so I guess I sort of see where the hype is coming from, and I'm sort of thinking like if I'm sitting in Arizona's shoes right now, there will be teams that are willing to give up a king's ransom to get up to number 4. Because between the hype of the top 3 guys, if you think McCarthy's the 4th, some teams seem to have McCarthy at 2. Some people seem to have him at 3. You don't know where it's going to be, but there is a world where that 4th pick could even be Drake May or Jane Daniels. That if that's the case, I think that will 100% happen. And I think there's also the possibility that if you're the Cardinals sitting at 4, you look at the Giants at 6. If the Giants want to jump up to get a quarterback at 4, that way you got the top 4 being quarterbacks. You assume 5 is Marvin Harrison, and then you're sitting at 6, and you still get Malik Neighbors, who you were probably comfortable with Malik Neighbors at 4 anyway. So I personally, if I'm Arizona, that is the route that I'm taking. That makes a ton of sense to me. You get a ton of assets. You probably still get the receiver that you wanted, or if say you were set on Marvin, I don't think Malik Neighbors is that much of a step down. It's a pretty great consolation prize. So if I'm Arizona, I'm all over that, and I think that would make a lot of sense.
Well, I'm just wondering what the Giants have to give up to move up to 4, aside from their number 1 next year and whatever else they have to throw in to do that. For this, I really don't think that it's going to be 4 quarterbacks, because I just think that there's no way that Marvin Harrison falls past 4. I think that people would be silly to let him fall to the Chargers. I think the Chargers are absolutely locked in on taking a receiver. It's either Harrison or Neighbors, considering they cleared house this offseason and Justin Herbert has to throw the ball somewhere. But then you look at, the Giants and Tennessee are really the teams that could jump up here, and maybe the Vikings, maybe the Raiders. But again, the Raiders really don't have that much to move up from 13 all the way into the top 4. I just don't see how J.J. McCarthy is worth taking at 4 overall, especially when you know that 4 and 5 don't need quarterbacks. Like if you're the Giants and you want a quarterback, just take him at 6. Like I really, there's no threat that Arizona or Los Angeles is going to take one. So I think why bother trading up unless you're going to trade into the top 3? I don't think it's worth it to trade into 4.
Yeah, I also think part of it depends on how stupid Washington is at 2. Because if Washington doesn't take Drake May and they end up with Daniels, or let alone McCarthy, which I've heard is a possibility, if McCarthy goes 2 to Washington, all hell is going to break loose because teams are going to be throwing ridiculous sums of draft picks to move up for May or for Daniels. So there is like it's after Caleb, the order of the next 3 quarterbacks is not set in stone, and I think that'll also play a large factor into whether or not it's Drake May at 2. If he starts sliding, then someone's going to want to jump up and grab either him or Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I mean,
because they're going to be there. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. What I really have to say is that I really think, like you guys have already mentioned, it comes down to the Cardinals, but I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility that they just sit and take the best quarterback available at 4 if they just lack that confidence in Kyler Murray. Look, I mean, you hate that, Jack, but I don't think it's an impossible scenario there. Now, the team projected to take J.J. McCarthy right now. See a lot of people saying that the Giants will probably take them at 6, which if they take them at 6, if they trade up and take McCarthy, I'm laughing my ass off as an Eagles fan. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is worth all this hype. I think he's been completely overhyped through the combine and draft process. Kind of like who was it? Joe Milton from Tennessee. I mean, people see his physicals.
I don't care. He has a cannon, bro. He's got a cannon.
He has a cannon, but I think he's another guy who's getting a lot more hype than he probably deserves at the moment. Honestly,
so that's not helpful.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm excited. Like, I like the idea, that Washington could screw up this draft and take someone that people aren't expecting, and change how the draft is, but. It all comes down to that 4th pick. I mean, if you look at the favorites, Caleb Williams is favored number 1, Jaden Daniels is favored number 2, Drake May is favored number 3, and then the top 2 guys for the 4th pick are Marvin Harrison Jr. and J.J. McCarthy, and their odds are not that far away. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the favorite still, but J.J. McCarthy is like right behind him. He's the number 2 most projected guy at the 4th pick. I think it's very possible. But it's going to be interesting to see if it's who makes that 4th pick. If Arizona decides to stay, I think it is more likely that they do take Marvin Harrison Jr. And just come away with the best receiver prospect we've seen in God knows how long. But if they're not feeling super comfortable with Kyler Murray, which, Jack, I know you hate that, but there's a legitimate chance that they could feel that way, them taking McCarthy or letting someone else trade up and get McCarthy, completely within the realm of possibility.
The Cardinals picking a quarterback, no matter who it is, except maybe if Drake May fell to 4. But other than Drake May, it would be the stupidest pick in NFL history. There would not have been a dumber pick ever.
I can think of a few.
No, I don't think in
Trey
the
Lance.
exact moment. I don't even think that was as dumb there. At least there was a right theory behind it. It didn't work out. But there's no theory behind this. They would make absolutely.
The theory is that they think Kyler Murray sucks and they want to move on.
The theory is you take a quarterback, but I guess because he's cheaper, that's the only benefit. But you hope to God he's as good as Kyler is.
And as good as Kyler is one trip to the playoffs that they got knocked out in the 1st round and nothing else to show for it.
I mean, at least he made the playoffs. I'm not sure J.J. McCarthy's going to step in and do that.
Yeah, but making the playoffs in the NFC is like when you get a lollipop at the dentist, like it's expected. Like, come on.
I don't think do the dentists give you lollipops? I don't think it's
maybe that's the wrong place. I don't know. The doctors give you a lollipop.
I find out point of view you walk out of the dentist with a lollipop.
They're like,
anyway,
you can eat this, but in 30 minutes.
I think here's the deal. I think the Cardinals would have already traded Kyler if he weren't going to be their quarterback next year.
Yeah.
So I think they've already made that decision. They're going to sit at 4 and take the wide receiver that they choose. For me, it would not be Harrison, just FYI. It would be Neighbors.
Really?
But I think in the end, they're going to trade out of that position because it's just the Vikings already have 2 firsts. They're willing to give those 2 up, probably plus, whatever else, a 2nd-round pick this year or something. Now, they have a lot farther to jump up. I think the Giants could give 2 firsts and a 2nd. I mean, they're going to have whatever they want at that moment, I believe, because people really like J.J. McCarthy. I don't agree with the assessment of what he's going to be in the NFL, but we'll see. He made every throw he needed to in the semifinal and the finals of the college football playoff this year. So, but yeah, I don't see them picking a quarterback already having Kyler, already having had a chance to trade him. So
yeah.
It's going to be exciting, and I hope there's chaos. I do hope somebody takes McCarthy second or third, because I just think that is going to be better content for us, and my team's not involved, so what do I care?
I'm always here for the chaos, even though I love it. It makes me mad how stupid teams can be, but it's a lot of fun.
The one question that we'll leave our audience with today is, if Marvin Harrison Jr. was just named like something else, like Joe Turner, would he still go as high? That's your question.
Oh, God.
Just based off the tape alone, no legacy father name attached to. I'm not saying he's a nepo baby, but it's like if a kid was named Randy Moss Jr., like tell me Thaddeus Moss didn't get drafted just because his name was Moss. Like, so I'm just saying, would Marvin Harrison Jr. be as touted as the greatest receiver prospect ever if his father wasn't a Hall of Famer?
I mean, hey, to be fair, I mean, you got a guy named Joe Alt being projected as a top 10 pick, so
yeah,
not always the name value that matters.
That's an awesome name, though. That's like exactly the name you'd want your tackle to have.
Sure.
Joe something, Hall of Fame tackle. Gotta be.
Joe Thomas.
Joe Thomas, yeah.
Joe
fair enough.
Batonia.
To be fair, still the best name in the draft. Brock Bowers, the best name in the draft. So excited to find out what
Kool-Aid McKinstry, but
yeah, I think we can do better than Brock Bowers. I mean, great tight end name, but
maybe we'll do that at the draft. Is this the guy in the draft class, or is he an old-timey baseball player? We'll see.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Enjoy UConn Purdue. And whatever, there's no NBA tonight, so you pretty much have to watch that if you want to watch basketball. So
yeah.
Thank you to the NBA not being nearly as greedy as the NFL, which is just like, we'll put games on every single night if we have to. So we'll play on Wednesday if it's Christmas. But enjoy it, and we'll see you on Thursday's show. Bye-bye.